All right, welcome back, everybody. So this week I have Brian Berry from Aqua Coat, and this is actually our second time because I screwed up and lost the original video. So I apologize, but I thank you very much for coming back on and talking about your products. You have a lot of good products on the market, and I would like for people to have access to those. And one of them is your grain filler. But before we get started, just kind of give us a background of how you got into the industry and just a little bit about yourself.
So I did something else in a completely different industry before this and wanted to get into a new business where a smart friend had recommended I get into something that was a growing part of its industry and that was different from others. So I figured water-based coatings, which is very different more, but it's growing. You know, the water-based part of it's growing at 1 to 2% of coatings a year. So that's how I came upon Aqua Coat. Aqua Coat got started about 25 years ago from a guy that had made coatings, and he had customers started asking for more eco-friendly coatings for their employees and for their environment, and he started formulating more eco-friendly coatings, and that's how Aqua Coat came about.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's do a little quick rundown on your products that you have. Now, you sent me several different products. One of them I have here, the Aquathane, and then you also sent me a sealer that was an amber colored sealer, and then you also sent me the clear low sheen lacquer, and then initially you sent me a pore filler, grain filler, excuse me. And then more recently, you sent me a white grain filler. So why don't you talk a little bit about the line, and then I'll talk about kind of I've got some samples here to show people some examples as you talk through those coatings.
Okay, so all our products are water-based, non-flammable, non-combustible, low odor, low VOC, and they all pretty much will pass a freeze-thaw cycle. We have water-based stains, which are real easy to use, very nice, multiple colors you can intermix to get a certain color that you desire. We have seal coats, sanding sealers. We have two different ones. One's more of an amber and one's a clear. Very nice, very easy to use right out of the container. You don't need to dilute them. You can if you'd like, and they're both pretty high builds, so that's nice. And then we have top coats. We actually have wood putty too. We have top coats, clear lacquer, very easy to use, 31% solids, easy to spray, meant to be sprayed out of an HVLP, but you can brush it, you can foam pad it on, it levels very nice, leaves a really nice coat. And then we have the Aquathane, which is acrylic urethane blend, more of that polyurethane feel, a little bit like a plastic almost, which is a really, really nice coat and very commonly used. And you can add a cross linker to that, which we have, and you can make that really hard, and we'll pass all KCMA guidelines for mar, scratch, heat, chemical resistance. And the lacquer passes, the clear lacquer passes the KCMA guidelines for heat, scratch, mar resistance and all that.
Great. Now, one of the things I wanted to, sorry, I didn't mean to interject on you, but you do have a gentleman that uses the Aquathane with the crosslinker in it on Starbucks tabletops, and it's held up extremely well to all that chemical. And when I do some videos here in the coming weeks, we'll take a look at that. But I do want to point that out, that this is a tabletop type finish that you can put on tabletops.
Right, and it's clear. There's a slight bit of yellow, but not much. The lacquer is really, really clear, whereas the Aquathane, anything with a urethane has a little bit of amber to it, but this is a combination of acrylic urethane, so it doesn't get that ambery.
Yeah. So while we're talking about that, so I have a board that I did with that and came out just really, really nice. And one of the things I want to touch on that I like about your all's coatings is that they are ready to shoot, and you can pretty much shoot them across the gamut. I think that we've talked before. Now, I shot these with an Apollo system. That's how we actually got connected, was through John DeRock at Apollo. and I shot it with the 7700 just on like a 4-stage unit. But I know that we've talked that if some of the guys out there, they have smaller units like some of the Earl X, like a 3-stage unit, I believe that this coating will shoot very nice as well.
Yep. Needless to say, the more the bigger the amount of turbines you have, which means it'll chop the particles finer, which will give you a little more professional finish. But yeah, three-stage turbine is fine, and a lot of people, that's what a majority of guys use.
This is the one you were talking about, your clear lacquer. This is an example of that, and I think I just did 2 coats of that on maple. Came out really, really nice. And then on this one, you can kind of tell the difference. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but you can see this one's lighter than this one, the clear lacquer. And then this one, I used your sealer underneath it, which a lot of guys have asked me the question, how do I get an amber cast when I'm using Waterbase? I don't even want to use shellacs or anything. I want to stay completely out of solvents. And I think this is a great product for guys to be able to use to get that amber hue that they want, like on walnuts, or on maple or cherries, or any of those where you want to warm that wood up.
Yeah, and you can also add color to those. You can add water soluble trans tints and trans dyes to get a little color. You could make it, red, but you could, give it that warm up amber feeling.
Yeah. Do you have a recommendation on that? The kind of dodge you all recommend, like trans tint or lockwood?
The lockwood stuff you need to dilute with hot water really, really well. And you can add that to it. Yep. And you can use water already, pre-made water soluble trans tints. The mix all of those will kind of work. Trans tints or trans dyes.
Yeah. Now, one thing is, before we did our last video, we talked a little bit with your chemist, and we were talking about some of the issues with Waterbase and using air-assisted airless. Do you have any guys that have used your coating with air-assisted airless?
Yeah, we do. A lot of industrial guys will use that. A lot, that are everyday production. But there's a lot of guys that use the HVLP because it's, less overspray, less waste. It kind of atomizes it in, cleaner environment.
Yeah. So would you recommend, do you know what, I'm kind of putting you on the spot with this, but do you know what size tips the guys use when they shoot with the air-assisted airless?
I do not off the top of my head.
Okay. I would guess, based on the viscosity that they're using, like if you were using a Kremlin system, it would be like a 06, which is like a 411 in the other ones, or go down to a 09. I know Scott, the wood craftsman, he did a video a couple years ago of I believe it was the clear lacquer, and he tried an 11, and then he felt like the 09 worked a little bit better for him.
Okay.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up for guys that are wanting to shoot with air-assisted airless. Now, have you got any guys try it with airless at all?
Yeah, guys are doing both.
Okay. One of the things that, as I'll continue to dive into different water bases, we've kind of found sometimes with certain coatings, airless works really, really well, and you don't get any of the bubbling and stuff with it because you're not adding any air to it. So I just wanted to point that out to see if that was something that you've had guys use or not.
Yeah, the airless is nice because you don't, the environment doesn't affect it as much as like the HVLP.
Yeah.
It's too dry. The bubbles don't get the chance to go to the top and pop.
Gotcha. Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad that you guys have found similar. I always like to talk with manufacturers that only do water-based because they tend to have a better outlook on what we deal with as finishers with water-based and some of the issues that come up than some of the companies that do water and solvent. A lot of them are more really kind of more focused on the solvent side, and they kind of forget about the water-based guys. So I appreciate that you guys are solely dedicated to water. Now, I know you guys talked about, you said you had some stains. Will you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Pigmented stains. They're water soluble, fast, very dry fast, easy to use, water cleanup. Yeah, multiple colors. Some of them are really, really deep colors.
So do you have like a variety of like if you wanted a walnut stain, or are these just straight dyes that you have to mix together to get your colors, or do you
Oh,
have a
no,
color palette?
we have a stain base, and we make them in separate colors.
Okay.
We have a lot of, and we're able to make, for industrial guys, we're able to make, guys that are going to order drums, we're able to kind of custom formulate a certain formulation for them, not just the color, but for instance, we had somebody that had some drying issues that they couldn't get it to dry fast enough, and so we kind of formulated something special for them to A, penetrate, and B, get a good dry time, a fast dry time. So we're able to do that. Being small, we're able to do that for people purchasing, larger quantities.
Sure, sure. And I think that's something we touched on last time, so I'm glad you brought that up. All right, so let's move over into your grain filler, sort of like, I guess in my circle is kind of what you guys, your flagship product, are known for. And so what I did here is I have an oak board where I did two different ones. I did one without a grain fill, and you can see all that grain. And then I did one with just, I think it was 2 coats. Now this is a heavy grained substrate, but I shot the Aquathane over the top of it, and it's gorgeous. Looks beautiful. Very, very nice. Now, so let's talk about this, because I think a lot of guys out in the field have been confused about this product. Typically with grain fillers in the past, you would put it on and then you would go grinding on it. But this is not one where you do that. It is, you put it on, you let it dry. It's about an hour dry time is what I experienced. Sometimes faster depending on, heat and humidity and those sorts of things. But all you do is you scuff it.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the application method is prep your wood, 220. You apply the grain filler. There's all sorts of ways you can apply it. You can apply it with a Bondo blade. You want to force it in. It's not something, it's a gel. And you want to force it into the grain. So you would apply it with like a Bondo blade, or some guys would do a big table with like a Bondo blade and a squeegee. It dries very fast. So don't do a big area and think you're going to come back and clean up the excess. So you would apply it and then scrape it off with the grain. Let it dry an hour. You can let it dry, with ideal conditions. Then you probably need a second coat. 2 to 3 coats are recommended. Lightly scuff sand it with a 320. You're left a really thin coat. You're not sanding it down. You're not sanding it off. You're only abrading it so that the 2 coats will adhere, because water-based products solvent-based products from one product to the next literally have a chemical reaction and burn. Mm-hmm. And they burn from one product into another. Water sets on top of itself. So you need to open it up and scuff it a little bit right before you apply the next coat, and it will adhere much better and it will perform much better. After you apply your whatever coats you decide you need, always run a test first. Let it dry overnight, because it will have a little bit of shrinkage. All water-based products do. And then overnight, it's 99% done. So then scuff it right before you start your top coats. Nitrocellulose, it'll accept paint, it'll accept primer. The only things that it doesn't accept are wipe-on polys or wipe-on tongue oil, something that's meant to penetrate the grain, because you apply the grain filler to not let other things get absorbed or get penetrated, and then you're applying something where you're forcing it in, something's going to give.
Right, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. So I kind of made the mistake on this. I wasn't thinking when I actually did the grain fill, I did a stain and then I put the grain fill over it, which I should have sealed it after I put the stain on, because I had it to where it was kind of it was pulling my stain off. So that's something I wanted to bring up for guys that are doing stains. So is your recommendation to, let's say you want to go all water-based, put your stain on, then seal it with either your sealer or your top coat, because your top coats are self-seal. And then you would want to do your grain filler. Is that the correct way to go about it?
Yeah. If you're using a solvent-based stain, you would apply the stain, let it dry 48 hours, and then you could apply the grain filler over that. If you're using a water-based stain, no matter how long you let it dry, it will re-wet it, especially if you're rubbing it and forcing it down. So you want to use a seal coat. Zinsser seal coat or one of those is fine. Our sanding sealer, you could cut that with a little bit of water, or our top coat or the lacquer, you could cut that with a little bit of water and use it as a seal coat. Then you apply the grain filler. Yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah. All right, great. Now let's talk about this for a second. You have, I have it here. You have a white grain filler. Now this is like the answer to the guys that are painting, because one of the issues that you guys found, and one of the issues that people have used the grain filler, is it's hard to see it on a surface that's already been either previously painted or stained if you're putting clear over it. So what you can do is put this on it, and then you can actually see it. Now, I actually did an interesting experiment with this. I had a set of doors that I made, and I was putting in 1/2-inch MDF panels in it. But because of the way I do my doors, I cope and stick them at 13/16. And the problem is, the way that I have to do that, the back of the panel was going to stick out past my door. So I had to run it through a planer to put it down. And so I was like, now what am I going to do? Because now I've opened this MDF up. So I actually thought, hey, I've got this grain filler. Let me put that on the MDF and see if it'll help seal off some of those pores. And it actually worked extremely well. So I'll throw that out to you. If you have a gnarly MDF, this is a really good product. And, use the white, because you can see where it's going into those pores and where you need to sand off. So why don't you talk a little bit about the white grain filler? And this is also, I believe you told me, this is higher solids than some of the, you have kind of two different grain fillers on the market. You have an industrial, and then I guess a more, I don't want to say DIY, but it's just less solid content. Is that right?
Yeah, so we have three. We have just the regular clear. It's kind of a retail one, DIYs, and actually a lot more people using it than the DIYs. And
sure.
Then we have the PGF 650, which we had a large acoustic U.S. guitar manufacturer test out, unbeknownst to us, the clear, and said it's all right, but could you make some alterations to it? So we made some alterations and made the PGF, which is higher solids, works the same, cures the same, dries the same, cleans up the same. It's just got a different resin system in it, and has its clarity and everything. And then people started using the grain fillers to paint their cabinets, and a lot of people were having success. But people would call and say, I put 10 coats on, and I did sand it with my belt sander between each coat. And I don't think this stuff works because I can't see it.
Right.
So they started asking if you can make it in a white. And after a good amount of people started making it in a white, we formulated it in a white, and it performs much better. It's the white is 29% solid, so that is a lot higher solids. And if you're going to paint, that is definitely the way to go. And you can do other things to it. People will use it. You can add color to all of the grain fillers. You could add color to this. You can't make it black, but you can make it gray. And people use it for different artistic looks.
Oh, cool.
And put like a clear coat over it. And and all of the grain fillers are meant and they're designed to sand easy. If you go to a large production facility where they're making musical instruments and you watch them sand, you have no idea how a guy could do that all day. But they do. And this will help you make that easier and speed up your production process, which is a big thing. That's a big bottleneck in most production, is sanding. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, I just took a scuff pad and just kind of hand did it, and it worked. It worked amazingly well. It powdered up super easy. And I think you got connected with one of my friends out here on social media, Michael Crane, and he's doing a job with the white one. So I'm excited to see how that comes up. I actually personally don't do a whole lot of grain filling oak. Just people around in Nashville, they don't care to see that grain. But I know it's interesting. We've talked before. It seems to be the northern regions, they like their grain filled oak. So I think this is the perfect product for that.
Yeah, we sell it all over.
Sure.
The oak cabinets are, kind of more Midwest. The old oak cabinets.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about how people can get your products. Now, you all sell direct to customers, and then you have, I think, some places like Rockler and Woodcraft. I know my local Woodcraft, I believe they have the grain filler. It's not the industrial, and then they also carry the clear lacquer. So
They have
for some of you guys,
they
oh,
have,
they have the Aqua Thane. Okay,
yeah,
great,
they have the clear grain filler, and the Aquathane. And
perfect.
some grain fillers, some woodcrafts will carry the Aquathane. They all carry the grain filler, and it does very well. And they're all very knowledgeable of it, which is really, really fun to see. And they're great salesmen of my products. So, and then
Awesome.
Lacquer carries the white grain filler and the clear grain filler.
Also, I think we talked a little bit that you can get it on Amazon as well.
You can get it on Amazon, and you can also get the PGF, the high performance one, is not on Amazon. It's on our website, and we actually have free shipping if you order through our website on the pints and the quarts of the clear, the white, and the high performance.
So this is a question I have. So how much, and I'm sure it says here on the label, but like if you're doing a cabinet job, like will this do like, I don't know, like a whole cabinet job, or would you need a couple of these? I'm just curious at what you guys have found. And I mean, obviously I know it depends on the depth of the grain, but just on how many, of these little pints, is that what it is a pint?
Yep.
How many do you think you would need for an average, let's say 25, 30 doors, just an average size kitchen?
So it comes in pints and quarts.
Okay.
A pint of the white will do 2 coats on a kitchen with 15 to 20 doors and drawers. 2 coats. It goes if you took that white and rubbed it into your finger, how it breaks down, you can see it into your fingerprints.
Yeah.
It's amazing that the more you work it, the more it breaks down, and it kind of like a wax almost kind of goes in further. And a quart will do 30 to 35 doors and drawers, 2 coats. And the clears go, if you had a pint, you could easily do a whole guitar, 2 to 3 coats 6 times is what some guys have told me. So.
Gotcha. All right, cool. And when they're doing the guitars, are they mainly working with ash and oak on those, or are they filling pretty much any like mahoganies as well?
Yeah, they'll fill mahogany. Some of them will put it on everything, any piece of wood that they have for the guitar, because their whole thing is it doesn't change the color of the wood.
Right.
And it's very easy to sand, and it dries fast, and it just makes it much easier to get to a base to start putting everything else on.
Yeah, I did it on some Babinga. Babinga is one that has like a really porous substrate. What ends up happening with a Babinga and even oaks and stuff is you get that kind of half filled, half not filled look. And if you go ahead and you put this product on, actually it will reduce the amount of coatings you have, and you get like a nice slick surface like you would with a maple. So if you want that full build, I think this is a lot better way to go than just keep putting on coat after coat after coat after coat to finish. Because sometimes, it could take 10, 20 coats, where you're talking about 2 coats with something like this in a small container is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, and the white it's very funny. The white, I had a guy call me right after we came out with it, and he said, so I put 4 coats of paint on my cabinets, and it does not look good. So he said, then I found your product. And he said, I was going to try 1 more coat of paint, and then I was going to give you a call. He said, I just put my 6th coat on, and it does not look good. So can I use this product now? And you can put it over previously painted cabinets as long as that paint is fully cured, not dried, but cured. And then you just, the white, you just scuff sand the previously cured cabinets, apply 1 coat of grain filler should be good, and then 1 primer and 1 paint, and always run a test.
Sure.
A test on for a drawer front or whatever you need to do. But
yeah, well, everybody knows that's what I'm about. My whole motto is test, don't guess. So you're definitely gonna hear that from me. Anytime someone does something new, I always say, take a door, take something, do some samples, get used to the product before you go full scale, because that's the last thing that you guys want is for someone calling you freaking out about something that could have been mitigated beforehand had they asked the question or done a simple test and they had a problem, then call you up and say, hey, we had an issue. And then you can say, well, you can do this, this, and this to fix that. So I appreciate you being a part of the whole test, don't guess.
Now, we like to educate and, help people. We like to have more people use water-based products, but we love to help people, solve problems.
Yeah. And while you're talking about that, you guys are on Instagram. I believe you're on LinkedIn as well.
Yep.
Are you on Facebook as well?
Yep.
Okay. And you guys do a little blurb out. I think it's Thinking Thursday is what it's called. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So, you want to stay in contact with your people and not just promotional stuff or selling stuff, or here's a picture that somebody, a picture of something somebody made, which is all great. But you want to, we're all about educating. So I'm very fortunate to have a really good chemist, and he likes to teach. He teaches at a college, and we'll sit down and, we have a list of topics that might be good to our customers and help them. We just did one on why use a sanding sealer, and the one before that was why put a blotch barrier down. All things that'll help. And it doesn't matter how big or small you are. It'll be interesting to read it and helpful.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys are doing that. That's one of the things that I'm about, is just helping people and getting the education and the word out about water-based products. So I appreciate you guys joining in on that and doing that. So make sure that you guys go like them and subscribe to their channel. Do you guys do any? Do you guys have a YouTube channel and do any videos as well?
We do. We're kind of putting some more up right now. I'm got a file that somebody made for me of running. Pretty interesting. They took the white and they did, I think, 12 or 16 little 3x8 panels, and they grain filled half of it and not grain filled the other half. And this guy used all sorts of different types of paint. He brushed it, he rolled it, he sprayed it, all different colors, all different manufacturers, and then he put it into a collage, and it really is pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to getting that up.
Yeah, very cool.
It's the filled and not filled, and he puts all of these colors into like a collage, I guess you'd call it.
Awesome.
And it's pretty interesting, pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, I'll make sure that I leave a link in the description below to all your different channels, so that and social media outlets, so that people can find you. So where do you think that the industry is going with the advent of social media? And I love seeing a lot of companies. I keep telling other companies, like, you need to get out there, put material out for people to help people. So what's your thoughts on how this is affecting the industry as a whole?
Yeah, you always we want to inform and educate and help people be more successful, but more about the water-based and improving your environment. I get calls from guys that are older finishers, and they just had health issues regarding with solvent stuff that they had used, and now they want to switch to water-based. Which is really encouraging because they have to. But, just help people be more eco-friendly to themselves, their family, their houses, their environment, their workplaces, their employees. And water-based kind of helps them do that quicker. There's hiccups. You don't use the same size tip as you would a solvent-based product. It dries different. It cures different. But in all honesty, they're pretty compatible. Every solvent-based product has pretty much a water-based compatible product or product.
Absolutely, and that's what I found with all these different ones I've tested. Like, I think the durability issue is kind of taking care of itself, but like you said, there are problems, and I think that my goal kind of is to get more water-based users, so that companies like you guys can make more money, put more R&D into it, so that we can continue to further water-based coatings.
Right. Yeah, and it is growing. It's over 50% of all coatings in the U.S. sold today are water-based. So, and it's growing at 1% to 2% in the U.S. per year of percentage of total coatings sold.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for those numbers. And thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate you sending the products over for me to look at. And we'll definitely be getting up some videos in the next couple of weeks of actual sort of demolition style, see if we can break the coatings.
All
And
right.
I look forward to that. And we'll make sure that I, again, put links and everything in the description below to all of your outlets. And what's the best way people can reach out to you? Do you prefer email? Just call your office?
Yeah, you can call Aqua Coat at 815-209-0808, or you could email me at Brian, BRIAN, at aquacoat.com, AQUACOAT.com, and that's our website. And there's a lot of tutorials and information and application tips, and we put all the Thinking Thursdays on there. And there's all sorts of product knowledge and to help you be more successful. Your customers, our customers, be more successful. Your listeners are more successful.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, Brian, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully, as you guys develop more products and you get things out, we'll have to do another one of these again very soon. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Eric.